Hello and welcome to this week's Out of Cast, your program completely in English to improve your knowledge about cinema. Today I'll be your host, Helio the Bluehead, with my friend and colleague,
Giulia Bruschini.
aka...
No, I don't have sunglasses today. I cannot tell it.
Well, you have theoretically sunglasses. Oh, sorry, I'm not here.
Also, Eleonora is here as our special guest for future vlogs, but more on that later.
I ruined the surprise. Sorry, everyone.
He's a jolly good fellow.
What?
Now, since the last week we talked about the legendary director Stanley Kubrick, and we wouldn't do him justice by just talking about him in just one show, we will also this week talk about him, but about more iconic films that he has done, right?
Absolutely.
Right
so we will talk about the early movies, but we
talked
talked about the
early
early movies.
movies.
Now
Yeah.
we will talk about his last projects and also not completed projects.
Yes. Yeah, more on that, but later. But before getting to all these interesting discussions, you can, follow us on...
Facebook by writing a Roma Tre Radio with
On
the
our
tree.
Twitter account as Roma Tre Radio. That's my job, Julio. Thank you so much.
You shouldn't be here.
We have a fight.
Why are you here?
And you can find us on Instagram as Roma Tre Radio. You go, Julio.
Okay, we just posted a story on Instagram. You can check it out by typing Roma Tre Radio with the 3 as a number.
And you can listen to us to our streaming website as radio.uniromatre.it and on the TuneIn app as Roma 2 Radio. We Roma 2 now.
Even if you couldn't listen to us live, you can also listen to our podcasts, which are incredibly awesome.
Yeah, totally. And
On
totally
the
not
same website.
censor it.
No.
No.
That's not our job. That they mostly do it in the US. Oh my god, I'm gonna be so
she
banned.
said
Okay, so let's get into a bit of a pause and then we'll be back to you very soon.
Yeah.
But now she just talks.
Okay.
And we're gonna just, no, don't go
No,
out.
it's better. I want to interfere in this way.
I'm sorry.
So what you just heard was the clip audio for Dr. Strangelove, as if it wasn't pretty obvious, which came in 1964. But Eleonora's here, as I said. She's our special guest. She is our specialist in some of these movies, and she's here to talk about Dr. Strangelove.
Alright, so Dr. Strangelove, or How I Stop Worrying and Start Loving the Bomb. It's Kubrick's 7th film and the very first and last attempt at comedy. But don't you worry, citizens, Kubrick would never made a regular comedy ever. The movie is based on the novel Red Alert or 2 Hours to Doom by Peter George of 1958. It follows the tragic story of an insane Nazi general that decided to trigger a path to nuclear holocaust that a war room full of generals, politicians, and powerful people tries to stop. But now we must remind ourselves that the movie was produced in the middle of a Cold War, whereas many people were actually convinced that a nuclear war was going to happen soon.
Oh, the tea is hot.
Yeah, and this fear even grew more after the Berlin crisis, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And in 1961, it's the same year Stanley Kubrick decided to document himself, reading more or less 50 books, and I'm not exaggerating on the number of books he read on the matter.
He is known for reading lots and lots of books.
Yeah, and especially those that were written by Herman Kahn, but one in particular would be relevant for Dr. Strangelove, and that one book titled Of Thermonuclear War. Well, Dr. Strangelove has been totally acclaimed by the critics and audience since the very beginning, granting it to be nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Screenplay at the Academy Awards, and
Obviously.
yeah.
Obviously.
And that's impressive for Kubrick. He had a hard time trying to get to the Academy.
He always had hard time with the Academy.
For some reason.
Mm.
Poor boy.
I really don't get it. Anyways,
Yeah. On Rotten Tomatoes, well, it goes with an almost perfect 98%, and the budget was pretty impressive to be a 60 movie, thanks to $1 million budget.
which is good.
It's
Quite good.
It's nothing compared to the style of today, but it got repaid almost 80 times more at the box office, and that's even more impressive. And with one movie, it's a precious jewel among Kubrick's filmography. It's a product that has become a pop culture icon, just like the rodeo bomb sequence that has been
Yes.
referred several times, and even Simpson did it.
Of course they did it.
Of course. It is a comedy, but it's a brilliant one, being a critique on American society and the military system on one side, and an expression of a Cold War biggest fear. And well, as you may suppose, it's a movie about Cold War and it's a movie by Kubrick. The ending is not supposed to be
So
happy.
yeah, it's not supposed to be happy at all, but it's Kubrick and we can't recommend it more.
So here we are, one of the most praised movies ever made and a masterpiece of science fiction.
Definitely.
Definitely. 2001 A Space Odyssey can be described as an essay about mankind, evolution, artificial intelligence. It's more than just a movie. Stanley Kubrick contacted the British writer Arthur C. Clarke to make him a subject for this next movie. Clarke came up with 6 short stories, and in the end they choose The Sentinel, which we have it right now in the studio.
Book here.
We have the book
We
here.
have the book here, everyone.
Exactly.
This is how awesome we are.
The Sentinel told the story of a group of astronauts sent to mission on the moon after a mysterious and advanced artifact was found under the surface. It produced some sort of radio signal, probably referring directly to its advanced creators. Once the man broke through the shield of the artifact, the radio signal stopped, and mankind has to wait both in fear and anxiety for the coming of the alien race. But what intention will they have? Ooh. The Sentinel is the embryo of 2001 A Space Odyssey and also the main inspiration for the second chapter of the movie, which is set on the moon surface. Have in mind that the movie has 4 chapters. From The Sentinel, Clarke helped writing the movie while also writing the book 2001 A Space Odyssey, which culminated in 3 other books, 2010, which they made also a movie from that, 2061 Odyssey 3, and 3001 The Final Odyssey. The original idea of Stanley Kubrick was to make a movie about man's relationship with the universe, and most importantly, a work of emotion of wonder and terror, which you may have heard from the clip we just played. It was meant to be a non-verbal experience, not relying on a traditional narrative technique offered by cinema.
I mean, in general, and to make it simple, not using so many dialogue.
I'm sorry, Jade. This decision affected the music as well. The soundtrack is comprised of classical music recordings, also Sprach Zarathustra by Richard Strauss being the most famous example. The production was massive. The space and planets were represented on painted glass panels, and the construction of props and models made stop-motion animation useful to represent space traveling. Kubrick himself controlled every stage of production, selecting notable pieces of contemporary furniture for the movie. For the design of the monolith, the initial idea was to make a transparent tetrahedral pyramid resembling the artifact from the Sentinel novel, but it was discarded due to its appearance on the set.
Yeah.
Art director and yeah, I agree.
No, I'm here to comment on this stuff because my part comes a bit later on. Since I'm good with the numbers, I'll do the numbers stuff.
I agree. Art director Anthony Masters then suggested to make the monolith's surface black. In the movie, the monolith represents an instrument of evolution, as a somehow awakening tool. Or some argue that it's some kind of a door. Somehow.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from some.
Well, we
critics.
have this useful place called IKEA, which you can find a lot of monoliths.
Okay, that will be like the monster. What was the Pixar one?
The Pixar Monster Inc. Monster Inc. In the first draft of the movie, the monolith was meant to be a screen showcasing how to make the next step. like showing the monkeys how to use bones as weapons in the first chapter. Thankfully, it didn't happen.
So now, when 2001 A Space Odyssey was released, it didn't really gross good, a total of $21 million. I mean, it wasn't really that good. Now, the movie was re-released many times in 1971, 1977, 2001, 2013, and 2017, and even 2018. And taking its re-releases into account, it is the biggest selling film of 1968. It's a bit of a cheating.
Yeah,
Don't you agree?
I agree, yes.
Well,
But Avatar did the same, so...
Yes, even they did it even with Titanic. Anyways, that was in US and Canada, but worldwide it grossed about 146 million across all releases, although some estimates place the gross higher at over 190. Now, the critical response was a real schism, receiving both aesthetic praise and vehement derision. And Kubrick defined the latest dogmatically aesthetic and materialistic and earthbound. As years went by, though, the positive opinions became more and more frequent, depicting 2001 as a monumental movie and one of the major works of the 20th century. In 1991, it was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the United States Library of Congress and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry.
Did you know that John Lennon had a secret room, a cinematic room, in which he projected 2001 once a week?
Oh, that's an interesting fact of the day. Here you go. Now, also, 2001 A Space Odyssey got a ton of nomination, obviously, at the Academy Awards. It only won the Best Special Visual Effects at the Oscar for Stanley Kubrick, and that's the only thing that Stanley Kubrick has won at the Academy, unfortunately.
Shame!
Shame! Thankfully, it won many others at British Academy Film Awards, the Hugo Awards, and even the Italian David Di Donatello Awards. On Rotten Tomato, it holds a 93% positive reviews and certified fresh on total of 104. I gotta say, 93% is not enough. It should be 100. Because look, Spider-Man Homecoming is 92, but then this is 93%. I mean, does it make any sense to you?
No.
And I'm a Marvel fan saying this.
Me too. We want information. Information. Who are you? The new number 2, or is number 1?
Oh, come on.
I'm not a number. I am a free man.
He's always in character. Are you watching us? Did you see who I am dealing with? A professional actor who is always in character.
And citing classical TV shows. Okay.
So, as you just heard, we are going to talk about Clockwork Orange, coming out in 1971. Now, this is a very unique and unforgettable masterpiece of Stanley Kubrick. Don't you agree with me?
I agree. Of course I agree.
This made the history of cinema in the idea of most of the cinema lovers. A mixture of fantasy, colorful shots, and, of course, violent scenes. Very, 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 very violent scenes. Now, Clockwork Orange, it's a novel by Anthony Burgess. Has been beautifully and splendidly brought to the world of moving picture by Stanley Kubrick with the same name. It is a futuristic, a very absurd and peculiar movie with Alex having the lead role, a teenager who leads a gang of 4. The cinematography is brilliant, the acting superb, the score very much satisfying, and then the energetic Malcolm McDowell brings the character of Alex to life. At times you hate him, at times you love him and feel empathy for him. Now, the character development and arc of Alex is very exciting and is also what makes this movie a success, also showcasing how much the script is very well written. Although being extremely violent and disturbing, this psychopathic thriller is absolutely a must-watch for all movie buffs and cinema lovers. Note that because of its violence, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but we highly recommend it to you anyways, since it's a masterpiece. But don't forget that it's been censored in many countries, and while releasing in 1971, in some countries it was released a few years after.
Kubrick's portrayal of hell was not only unique, but each frame was way ahead of its time. The suffering, the damnation was depicted in such an earthly scale that it feels so real, even many, many years after the film's release. His realizations were timeless. The movie is a constant warning for our future, which continues to become the present every single day. It is one of the most thought-provoking and meaningful movies of all time. At the box office, it earned 26.6 million only in the USA, on a budget of $2.2 million. We don't have any specific record of the global earning, and on Rotten Tomatoes it got 89%. Pom pom pom. Cazzo, la canzone di sottofondo. No, gli Smashing Pumpkins a Firenze sono entrati con questa di sottofondo mentre salivano sul palco. No, tranquillo.
La stessa, io so. Cosa sta succedendo?
Io adesso ti chiederò di mettere una canzone degli Smashing Pumpkins, visto che ce li abbiamo in catalogo. No, al posto di Tommaso Porco Dio Paradiso. Scrivi Smash e sicuramente arrivano. Metti. Perfetto, dai, perfetto.
What you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, was the clip audio for Barry Lyndon, which is my one of my personal favorite history periodic dramas of all time. I absolutely adore this movie, and the music, oh my god.
We better not tell what happened earlier during the break.
yes
Okay, go on. Go on.
The break.
No, don't.
Yeah, I gotta say that you made us mistake that this is the wrong clip. Yeah, Giulio told that we were just, what the hell is going on?
Because the music started pom 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 pom. I said, holy crap! The Smashing Pumpkins opened this concert at Florence with this.
Yeah, and you mistaken a classic music with the Smashing Pumpkins.
No, they used this music.
That classic.
That's what I was telling.
Barry Lyndon and Smashing Pumpkins. What a feature, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, we're gonna talk about Barry Lyndon coming out in 1975. Now, where should we start talking about this movie? This movie is a huge deal. Like any other Kubrick movie, to be perfectly honest, it's actually a bit hard to realize from where should we start. Barry Lyndon is a masterpiece in any aspect, a work of art, truly. And it has some achievements in science as well. It might be sometimes a bit hard to grasp and digest, but for many, might be a boring movie, unfortunately. So that for movie buffs and scholars, it's unbelievably extraordinary. Considering it was released in 1975, the movie has a runtime of over 3 hours, so it's quite long. So before watching the movie, grab a cup of coffee or tea if you prefer, and some snacks, then start watching the movie.
I will do. I have it on DVD. The movie is a period drama based on the 1844 novel The Luck of Barry Lyndon by Sorry, William Makepeace. William Makepeace.
Thackeray.
It tells the story, or better to say life, of a fictional 18th century Irish rogue and opportunistic who marries a rich widow who climbed to the social ladder and assume her late husband's historic position. So, like many other period dramas, we have these beautiful sets and decors of these outfits, and that will take you out. The outfit will take you to those days. The script and the story, which is being told, definitely takes its time to take shape and show you the character arc of Barry Lyndon. But what's more to this film that makes it different from other period dramas, you would say? Well, as we mentioned before, surely the script is written remarkably. Now, if you have ever been to museums, you have seen the beautiful paintings of the Rococo era of the famous neoclassic paintings. Well, let me tell you that Kubrick himself has inspired so many scenes of this movie directly from these paintings. Especially, you will notice it by the composition of each frame, as if you pause the film, each frame can be a painting. That's how beautiful it is. Now, to capture the beauty and the really classy, let's say, Kubrick refused to use extra, or should we say artificial, lights that they always use for the movies. He insisted on using natural light of the chandeliers and other illuminating sources, especially candlelight that were used in that era.
No, but of course, there was this little problem that the normal camera lenses were not able to capture these sort of lights, of course. But back then, so Kubrick did an amazing thing with the director of cinematography alongside, John Alcott, who won Oscar for this. What he did was practically noted as a technical achievement and innovation. So what did they do? They obtained these super fast 50mm lenses called Zeiss Planner 50mm, developed by Zeiss for the use by NASA in the Apollo moon landings, which Kubrick had discovered. So it was by using these unusual lenses for cinematography that they filmed those scenes. What else can we say except that we're just speechless? Now, the movie got nominated in 7 categories in the Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay, which didn't won none of this, poor Kubrick, and won instead Best Costume Design, obviously, Best Production Design, and again, Best Score, which is quite odd because many of the scores were famous classicals that we've heard before. But anyways, and of course, as we said before, the cinematography. But audience and critics are almost on the same page about this movie on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics giving it 91% and audience giving it 92%. The whole point is that this movie is a masterpiece. Please just go watch it. Please. Dude, I'm stressing out here and you're just joking around. Let's move to 1980 with Shining, but our special guest is back here. Eleanor's here again with us.
Hello.
Our specialist.
Thank you.
Yeah, she wants to review and talk about The Shining.
Well, talking about The Shining is pretty simple. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, because we all know this one, right? The Shining, well, it's based on Stephen King's novel of the same name, and it talks about a small family that moves into a secluded hotel as caretakers trapped inside for months due to the harsh Colorado weather. Isolation leads to its own brand of unease, and the dark history of the hotel comes back to haunt the family. It stars Jack Nicholson, lovely squeezy, as Jack Torrance, Shelley Duvall as Wendy Torrance, Catherine Crowell, and Danny Lloyd. Well, when Shining was first released, critics didn't know well how to react, and that's because, unbelievable but true, back in 1981, The Shining got both 2 Razzie Awards,
Yes.
and 4 Saturn Awards at the same time.
Can I say an interesting fact here?
Yep, sure.
When Steven Spielberg first saw the movie, he said that Jack Nicholson's acting is not good in this movie.
Oh, burn.
but then in the next watchings, let's say, next time he watched, he said, no, I was wrong, sorry, the movie is really good, Jack Nicholson is great, sorry.
Yeah, from a financial point of view, he started with $19 million and all was just money, cash, money. After time, at least got totally paid at the box office thanks to a general gain of almost $50 million. Well, there are even more than a couple of reasons. The movie was truly something at the time of the first release, because nothing like this had ever been screened before, since it left you wondering what actually happens in the story. Kubrick creates an insane yet down-to-earth world filled with astonishing cinematography and a remarkable work of symmetry, color patterns, and a unique music score which have never been used on a horror movie so far. Kubrick even managed to create its own shining, so spectacular that many people will speculate about the true story of the movie for years to come, and especially because he decided to defer a whole lot for Stephen King's original novel.
Yeah, Stephen King wasn't like at all happy with what he saw.
Yeah, and then he decided to do his own Shining. You know that?
No,
There was
I
a
mean-
Shining miniseries produced by Stephen King himself.
Oh, I haven't
and
watched
it's
it.
Fucking shit. I'm sorry to say it.
She said it.
I dropped the F-bomb, sorry.
We usually do that. It's normal. It's in Out of Cast, all of these things are normal. We're the only program in English, so it's normal.
You can't reach us. Censored. Okay, I forgot to talk about Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten
Yes.
Tomatoes, it has been acclaimed by critics and the audience as well, more by the audience, because the critics reaches only to 85%, and it has a 95% of the audience score.
I mean, with these percentages, I sometimes doubt the intelligence of critics. I'm sorry. I'm a critic myself. I am a student
Alice said
critic.
the critics are dumb.
No, I didn't say the critics are dumb.
It's cancel culture.
But sometimes it's just hard for me to grasp based on what they are scoring these amazing movies. I mean, we're talking about Stanley Kubrick, everyone.
Next video, hell yeah, it's cancelled.
What did you say about critics system?
Critics are dumb.
What's wrong with me? I'm burning everyone.
Yeah, he's saying the critics are dumb.
I'm literally saying.
Critics are dumb. Helia 2019.
Oh my god!
That was wonderful, really.
People will burn me for this. These
Critics are dumb.
history won't forget. Let's talk about Full Metal Jacket, which came out in 1987. I mean, have you realized that it took 7 years from... I mean, The Shining was released in 1980,
Yes.
and then Full Metal Jacket came in 1987.
Well, that's not hard actually to understand because the making of the movie required a lot, mainly because of the forest and the settings. But we will talk about this later.
Yeah, but I mean, it's getting more to notice that in recent movies, Kubrick is taking really his time to make these movies. Anyways, but this is a war movie, as it was, if it wasn't obvious for you. It's directed, co-written, and produced by him, Stanley Kubrick himself, although it's set during the United States' involvement during the Vietnam War. The movie focuses on the training life of a platoon to be sent to war, particularly on the Private Joker, played by Matthew Modine. Yeah. Who you may know for playing the father of 11... Oh, in Stranger Things, got it!
Now you see.
Yeah! Gomer Pyle, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah. And Cowboy, played by Alice Howard. All of them under the training hand of Sergeant Hartman, played by Ronald Lee Ermey. As history teaches, The war life changes you from inside. Some can make it, some cannot. But we won't go further to avoid spoilers.
The screenplay is inspired by the novel The Short Timers by Gustav Hasford, who contributed to the script as well. Together with Michael Herr, the original idea was a movie about the Holocaust. That's one other reason because the movie took so long. But it was discarded in favor of the Vietnam War. Kubrick then came to know about the book, The Short Timers, and fell in love with it and decided to do the screenplay on it. He collaborated with the author on the phone for many times, but then Kubrick was ecstasiated with meeting Hasford in person. Michael Herr, although wasn't very keen on that because he knew that Hasford is a scary person.
No.
Kubrick insisted, and in the end they managed to meet for dinner, but it didn't go well.
Oh, I wonder why.
Kubrick and Hasford never met again in person. Ronald Lee Ermey, the guy who played Sergeant Hartman, wasn't the first choice for the role. He was an actual marine drill instructor, and Kubrick at first wanted him just as a technical advisor. He then changed his mind when Lee made an improvised insulting dialogue in front of a group of Royal Marines.
Wow.
The film was shot in England with real tropical plants taken from Spain as well. Originally they built a fake set with a tree that came from Canada.
Wow, that's some dedication to making a really good movie.
Kubrick wasn't satisfied with the results, so he ordered these tropical plants from Spain. A former Royal Air Force station and then British Army base was used as a location for the camp. When Full Metal Jacket was released, it met the praise of the critics. It has 91% of Rotten Tomatoes, so we can't recommend it more to you. Watch it. Now it's time for hot stuff.
Ooh. Okay, the hot stuff for last week was Lolita.
Yeah, exactly. Now we have Eyes Wide Shut, as you wrote on the script.
No, don't say it! Come on! It was a mistake. Look, I'm a busy person and I make these little...
Dude, earlier I wrote embryon instead of embryo, so yeah.
Yeah, shit happens.
Yes, exactly. Beep! Eyes Wide Shut is the last movie directed by Stanley Kubrick. He died only 6 days after showing the final cut to the Warner Brothers Pictures.
Oh, that's really tragic. I mean...
Ah.
I just can't imagine if he was alive, what other awesome movies he would have made. I can't imagine because we are going to talk about it, but I'm just imagining the movies that he would have made. Oh my god. Like, what a loss. So anyways.
Let's go on.
Bill Harford, played by Tom Cruise, is a doctor living in New York with his wife, Alice, played by Nicole Kidman, and their daughter, Helena. After attending a Christmas party in which they were approached by two models each, Bill assures Alice he's not jealous of other men's attention on her, since she's really hot, I mean.
Well, Nicole Kidman, you know.
Nicole Kidman, I mean, yeah. But since he believes women are naturally inclined to fidelity, that's not a good comment.
Let's not start on this point. Let's go on, because that's the movie.
Oh my god, really? Come on. Alice then confesses to him that she contemplated having an affair a year before, and the movie followed Bill's sexuality-charged adventures and a mystery surrounding a masked orgy by the hand of a secret society. If it just doesn't get any more weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The movie is based on the 1926 novella Tromovelle, Dream Story, by Arthur Schnitzler, we don't know. Schnitzler, okay. Kubrick obtained the rights back in the 60s, and initially it was supposed to be a sex comedy. He revived the project in the 90s when he hired writer Frederick Raphael to help him with the adaptation. The settings also were changed, from a 19th century Vienna to a 90s New York City. So lame. By doing so, all the Jewish references were removed, although Frederick Raphael, being Jewish himself, insisted on maintaining the main character's Jewish background. The original story begins at Christmas time. The original story was set during Carnival time.
Yeah.
This explains the masks.
Yes, obviously.
But the film is set during Christmas time. According to Kubrick, the character of Bill should have had a Harrison Ford-esque kind of masculinity.
Okay.
By referencing often to him, the surname Harford came along.
Although I really can't see Harrison Ford-esque masculinity in Tom
Well,
Cruise.
he was a kind of sex model back in the days.
Harrison Ford or
Harrison
Tom
Ford,
Cruise?
Harrison Ford.
Okay, but yeah, moving on anyways. Although Kubrick's final cut was presented before his death, Warner Brothers cut several scenes in order to obtain a rated R rating. I mean, if it has sexual scenes that it is already R rated, then you cut it and it's still R rated, then why do you cut it?
Imagine if Stanley Kubrick was still alive then.
Of course he wouldn't let it happen.
Okay.
So this version was released on July 16th, 1999 to moderately positive reactions from film critics. The box office received for Eyes Wide Shut worldwide were about 162 million. The uncut version has since been released in DVD, HD DVD and Blu-ray disc formats. On Rotten Tomato, it currently has about 75%, which is quite low for a Stanley Kubrick movie. I mean, the movie is quite good, but it's not for everyone, I gotta admit.
Critics are dumb by Hey.
No! Oh my god, come on! No! So I technically, if I didn't meant to say critics are dumb.
No,
because-
but they are
No,
dumb.
because we're kind of criticism.
Yeah,
we're talking about
we're
the movies as well.
Manca un blocco.
Sì, tanto la conclusione.
Sì, sì.
Directed something like that by Steven Spielberg, a friend of his. The two of them had been chatting on the phone since the early 80s and they basically met during the shooting of Shining and Raiders of the Lost Ark, since both movies were filmed on the S3 Studios. A few weeks after Kubrick's death, Spielberg had declared that he would not direct the movie anymore, while confirmed his involvement only in preparatory stage and nothing more. But however, in the end, he directed the film, he stopped working on Minority Report, and we all know what it meant for him.
Moving on.
Yeah, and still Kubrick had lots of interesting projects to work on, which he later decided to scrap for a reason or another.
So from Beatles-fueled adaptation of Lord of the Rings, The Exorcist, an adaptation of Umberto Eco's novel Foucault Pendulum, Perfume, and many, many more, especially the not-made Napoleon movie, which is one of the movies that I really wanted to see it. Oh my god, who's gonna do it? I checked and no one's apparently doing any movie on Napoleon, and just imagine if Stanley Kubrick would have done this movie, how huge and how gorgeous it should have been.
You
could
can
have
do
been.
it.
What?
We all can do it. He's dead.
I can do it. Yeah, I want to be a director, so why not? Okay.
Sure,
Challenge
why not?
accepted. I'm not gonna be a Kubrick, but I'm gonna be me. So, anyhow, there was one specific project that Kubrick wanted to make so bad, and that was a Pinocchio movie. Yeah. So, can you tell us more about it?
Oh, well, Emilio D'Alessandro, who was a long-time assistant of Kubrick, was literally asked several times to send him Italian books regarding the matter and tell him weird stuff like how long is the train station from some cities. Weird. Anyhow,
Stanley Kubrick unfortunately passed away 20 years ago by now, but he is still one of the most influential directors of all time. You just can't deny that. Kubrick's haunting echo can be heard on such films like Blade Runner, Aliens, Trainspotting, Wild at Heart, Raising Arizona, Panos Cosmatos Beyond the Black Rainbow. It's literally everywhere. We could almost say that his over seems more alive than ever than before.
I mean, we are still influenced by his work, generations after generations, years after years, and we just love this perfectionist director. And in the end, I hope you have enjoyed this week's Out of Cast with the three of us. I was Helio the Bluehead with
Twinkle Nora.
and
Julio?
And we are
also-
the three caballeros.
and also our missing member Said, who also is our other writer. Thanks to our two directors today, Federico and Alessandro. Thank you both.
Hello.
You are great, guys. And thank you again to our listeners. Thank you all for tuning in. And we'll see you on the flip side.
Okay.
Woohoo! Tanga.
We did it!